Hello, my name is Terry McVenis. I'm honored to serve as the president and CEO of ATCA. ATCA has a tremendously rich history, having served the aviation community with distinction and effectiveness since 1935, with a focus on standards development, collective decision-making, and consensus building. As we're continuing to evolve our organization for new and emergent trends in aviation and empowering innovation through collaboration, we're excited to expand our associations with government and industry partners so that we can best serve the entire aviation community. So towards that goal, today I'm pleased to have with me Mr. Brian Bruckbauer, the President and Chief Executive Officer for the Air Traffic Control Association, ATCA. Brian, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Terry. And I really want to thank you not only for your time today, but just for the continued partnership between the Air Traffic Control Association and RTCA. It's been a very long and prosperous partnership, in my opinion, and thank you for continuing that.
That's great, great. So you are reasonably new in your role at ATCA. Give us a little bit of background, your background, and how you came to this area to lead ATCA.
Yeah, thank you. So last year I retired from the Air Force as a Brigadier General. Was in the Air Force for 29 years. I was a career air traffic control officer. So I've been associated with ATCA on and off throughout my entire Air Force career. Worked with our board chair when I was a captain, Neil Planzer, when he was in charge of what's called the Policy Board on Federal Aviation at the Pentagon. Again, I've worked very closely throughout the years with ATCA, with Neil, with the folks at the FAA. So when this opportunity came up shortly after I retired from the Air Force, I immediately jumped on it because it's a way in which I can continue to serve just in a different capacity, not in uniform, but still serving people who are very, interested in the advancement of air traffic control and airfield management. And as we will probably get into, I'm looking at expanding the aperture of what ATCA does as well going forward into more of an airspace integration realm, ensuring that all airspace users have a voice, a way in which they can bring forth their challenges and issues and provide a forum in which those problems and issues can hopefully be solved through the work of things like working with the FAA, NASA, DoD, but then also other associations like yours. And I think we're very well postured and very well connected to be able to make sure that the future of operating in our national airspace system will be one that will be there for everyone.
Great. And so you're a membership organization, membership-based organization. Can you tell us a little bit about your membership base and how you interact with them?
Yeah, so our membership, I would say the majority of our members are industry members, because one of the things that ATCA does and does well is we connect industry to the FAA, NASA, DoD. We're sort of that connective tissue when it comes to air traffic management and airspace integration. So we do have, though, a variety of foreign ANSPs who are members. Also, we have a good number of individual members, folks who are just interested in air traffic control and air traffic management and are interested in the products that we put out. We have daily social media feeds that go out. We have every other month bulletin, a quarterly magazine that goes out. And then, of course, we put on a global event and a domestic event here every year as well. So our membership base is, very active in those events. But then, of course, the information that we put out there and the services that we provide to our members, keep them coming back year after year.
Yeah. And speaking of events, you've got a big event coming up next month. You're partnering with Civil Air Navigation Services Organization, CANSO. for the World ATM Conference, which I'm told is the largest gathering of ATM professionals in the world.
Yeah.
Tell us kind of a little bit of how that show has evolved since it began. It was, I think, around 9 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a very, very great idea by the folks 9 years ago who partnered on this. And when the show initially came out, there were around, I think, 125 exhibitors and maybe around 4,500 attendees that came together. And for those who haven't been to a World ATM Congress event before, what you see when you go there, of course, there are exhibitors from around the world that are there to either, sell things or to advertise things that they're working on. So you don't just see, the Saabs and the Frequentis and Thalases and Raytheons, but you also do see some smaller companies and smaller associations that are there as well, just to get the word out about what they're doing in this space. Additionally, what you see when you're there too are theaters and programming that's associated with everything from, UAS integration to, discussions about the environment and net zero carbon emission goals. So it has a very international flavor. We generally have, anywhere from 90 to 100 countries represented there. And pre-pandemic, the last event we had before COVID, we were already up to 273 exhibitors and 8,500 attendees. So it's really grown a lot over that 9 years. Now, because we're coming out of the pandemic right now, and with the conflict in Ukraine, there were some ANSPs and some industry members who weren't able to make it. So we're probably going to have some numbers a little less than those I just quoted you on, but still, it is the place to be in the mix with the discussions, and then to see everything that's coming out from new technologies to, goals associated with, like I said, anything from the environment to, future, data integration discussions.
Right. Are there any particular main themes of this year's ATM conference?
Yeah, so this year's theme is connecting the world of ATM. So what us and Canso were trying to achieve there were bringing more people from different places into this particular event. So that not only means, more ANSPs from around the world and more industry members, but it also a more diverse gathering of people as well. So for instance, there is a drone or UAS association within Spain called Expedronica. So we've partnered with them. So on the floor, you'll see that there are some UAS and drone exhibitors as well, and a theater dedicated toward UAS integration. So we were pleased with the evolution of that in this event, because for me anyways, airspace integration for everyone is a goal, and we don't ever want to exclude anyone from that discussion. So I think the more diversified we can be with this event and others going forward, I think it's just better for all airspace users and providers.
Yeah. Any other exciting developments you got planned for the show this year?
Well, last year we started up what was called the Maverick Awards, where we have different categories of awards like collaboration, innovation, resilience. And, we get upwards of around 100 nominees for these awards. And what's really eye-watering to me is just reading some of the just incredible achievements of some of the folks around the world, especially during COVID. here in the United States, the FAA is federally funded, but in many countries around the world, air traffic services are privatized. So when you had a huge reduction during COVID of commercial and airline traffic, everything from landing fees to overflight, all that money, all that revenue for these ANSPs dried up. So to hear how they were resilient in working through COVID, some of them had to take some very drastic measures, but it's great to recognize just some of the amazing work that's done around the world, and to hear how some of these problems were worked through. And the great thing is people are able to learn from some of the challenges that others have faced. And I think it's going to make our entire community stronger.
I think the whole air traffic management, it's really changing and evolving with time, as some of the new entrants are going to be part of our system going forward. What do you see as maybe the role of the World ATM Congress as being a factor in some of these changes?
Yeah. So what I've seen is there are a lot of great ideas out there. Additionally, there's a lot of people discussing and talking about some of the current and future challenges, where I see, the World ATM Congress and ATCA perhaps filling a void that's there, is how do you take these good ideas and operationalize them? Mm-hmm. Because, with any strategic plan, the hard part is actually doing something and making a difference, and bringing the right people together to, create the standards, create the policies, create the regulations. And granted, every country is a little bit different, and regions around the world are a little bit different, but I think the goals are the same when it comes to airspace integration efforts. So at least my goal, like I said, for ATCA and the World ATM Congress, is how do we really do the hard work of operationalizing these good ideas and bringing them to reality? Because, just here at home, when I meet with FAA leadership, and I'm sure this is true with you as well, Terry, the FAA and for that matter around the world, the ANSPs don't always have the answers. They're looking to industry for help with that, because many times what industry knows from a technology standpoint, far exceeds what the FAA or DoD or others are doing. So this needs to be a very close partnership between airspace users, airspace providers, and industry to solve these problems. So I'm extremely excited to be in this position now and today, because the future is going to be very, very exciting as we begin to develop these plans for ensuring that every airspace user can get integrated into the national airspace system, and for that matter, globally around the world as well.
Yeah. So beyond the World ATM Conference, you've got probably one of your other large events is the ATCA Annual, which will be later this year. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I got into the job, one of the first things I did is I met with our membership. As I discussed, I met with FAA leadership, NASA leadership, DoD leadership. And as I had these conversations, the one thing that became very apparent to me right away was, with regard to technology, a lot of things are moving to cloud computing, sensor to sensor type data exchanges and things of that nature. And when you look at commercial space, the growth there, the UAS growth, from everything to, military purposes, commercial purposes, individual purposes, just a huge proliferation in that particular space. So what I heard was ATCA needs to be the organization and the place where airspace integration challenges are being discussed, and where those challenges and problems are being solved. So what I did for the upcoming ATCA annual that'll be here in DC in November is I've worked with the Commercial Spaceflight Federation. I've worked with AUVSI, the Association for the Drone and UAS Community. Work with you, Terry, and other organizations like MITRE to really have some powerful programming that really gets at the nuts and bolts of what needs to be solved in these various areas to ensure that, again, we're on the right path toward airspace integration for all. So at the ATCA annual, what you'll see this year are four different theaters, one that's dedicated toward UAS integration, one that's dedicated toward commercial space flight integration, another that'll be innovation and technology, which we're partnering very closely with the FAA Tech Center on, and then another one that's primarily, air traffic management centric, and we're working with NATCA on programming for that particular theater. So what I'm doing this year then is trying to bring all of these different airspace users and all of these different proponents from these different industries together in one place so that we can advance the ball on airspace integration. And I am really excited for this because it's a direction that ATCA hasn't gone in the past, and I think it's, again, more representative of the future direction that we're going as a country, and trying to bring together all of these different users and integrate them into the national airspace system. And I'm also, with my military background, I'm bringing the Space Force into the discussion as well, because as I'm sure you know, there's going to be a handoff in space traffic management from the Space Force to the Commerce Department here soon. So I want to bring them and Commerce into this discussion as well. So again, I'm really trying to grow that ATCA annual into something very powerful that can really address the area of airspace integration. And I think it's going to be, really exciting, and I can't wait to, see how it goes and how we can continue to do these things in the future. And with these partnerships I have with these other associations too, there are discussions like this happening at their annual meetings as well. And what I'd like to do is, when AUVSI has a conference and they talk about this particular issue, and they came up with results, what I'd like to do then is take those results, integrate it into my conference, advance the ball on that, and then hand it off back to AUVSI when they have their next event, rather than just having an event for, forgetting about all this stuff and not doing anything with it. So more cooperation amongst associations, I think, is necessary to really, advance the ball in this area.
Yeah, I really applaud that. I know I'm often asked, what are some of the top safety issues that are facing the industry? And one of those I always mention is the integration into the airspace of all the new entrants as well as the traditional entrants, and how you put that all together. And we have to ensure that it's done efficiently and safely. And I think that's a big challenge for us. So
yeah,
good on you for that. One final question. There's, a lot of changes going on or being planned in the aviation ecosystem. What do you see as, from your perspective, what are some of the top concerns that are part of the air traffic management profession? Probably hit on some of them. Are there anything else?
Yeah, as I was leaving the Air Force, one of the biggest challenges for the Air Force was this concept of something called JADC2, Joint All-Domain Command and Control. And what the Chief of Staff of the Air Force is trying to achieve with that is, how do you connect everything so that, at a strategic level, how do you integrate all of this data in order to make decisions faster and to have, faster, quicker effects when you're in the heat of the fight, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that same thing applies to our national airspace system. How do you integrate all of this data so that those who have the responsibility for, maintaining separation and maintaining safety in our national airspace system, how do they get all of this integrated data so that they can make faster, better decisions when it comes to our safety and separation requirements in the national airspace system? And some of that, as you know, could possibly be happening on its own. It can be, sensor to sensor, data is being shared, and then, they're able to separate themselves. I think that's part of the idea for how, uncrewed systems can possibly maintain safety standards in areas where they operate. But again, I think that's going to be one of the bigger challenges, and that's why it's going to be important for us to be working with the data providers, the cloud providers and others that maybe this community hasn't worked that closely with in the past, and I know you at RTCA have worked closely with these folks when it's come to the 5G challenges. So I think, important for both of our associations to really understand, those players as well and bring them into the fold to help solve some of these, really challenging data integration challenges in the future.
Absolutely. Well, excellent. Brian, thank you so much for being with us today. I look forward to seeing you next month in Madrid for the World ATM Congress. And good luck in all the preparations for getting ready for that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you there too and working with you in the future.
Great. I have been speaking today with Mr. Brian Bruckbauer, the President and CEO of the Air Traffic Control Association. If you want to learn more about the World ATM Congress or ATCA in general, you can probably go to their website at atca.org for some more information. If you're interested in learning more about our standards development work, if you have any questions about the training that we provide or interested in becoming part of the RTCA family of members so that you too can have a voice in developing aviation standards, you can contact us directly through our website at www.rtca.org or via telephone. Thank you for listening.